The night was cold and silent on the alien world. Dark blue mist covered the ground like a soft blanket. The human explorer, Captain Ray Carter, walked slowly through the strange forest. His boots pressed into the soil that glowed faintly with each step. The air was heavy, filled with the hum of unseen creatures. He held his blaster ready, though no target appeared. Ray had been stranded here after his small ship crashed 2 days ago. He was tired, hungry, and still searching for a signal to call home. But tonight, something different stirred in the shadows. He could feel it, the way one feels when eyes are watching. Leaves shifted, though there was no wind, and the silence of the forest seemed to breathe with him. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence. It was not the roar of a beast, not the rustle of wings. It was soft, trembling. A cry. Ray stopped at once, his blaster rising. From behind a cluster of glowing trees, a small figure appeared. It stumbled forward. Thin arms hugging its chest, large black eyes glistened with tears. Ray's heart skipped. It was a child, but not human. Its skin was pale silver, smooth like stone. Its head too large for its small frame. It looked fragile, lost, and afraid. The child raised its hands and fell to its knees. The words that came from its mouth were broken, but clear enough to send a shiver down Ray's spine. Please, human, help us. They locked my mother in a cage. Ray blinked, unsure if he had heard right. He lowered his blaster just slightly. The child crawled closer, still begging. Please, she will die. They hurt her. You are strong. You can help. Ray's soldier's mind raced. Traps, tricks, ambushes. He had seen them all before, but this was different. The voice was too raw, too desperate. No child could fake such pain. Yet still, this was not Earth, and he knew nothing of these beings or their wars. Who locked her? Ray asked firmly. The child's small lips trembled. They, the invaders, the ones with metal skins. They fear her because she knows the secret. They will kill her soon. Please, before it is too late. The human stepped closer. Scanning the trees, no movement, no sound, but the quiet sobbing of the child. He looked down at the little one, tiny fingers dug into the soil, begging. The sight struck him in a way he did not expect. He thought of his own sister's child back on Earth. The way children trust without question, the way their eyes never lie. Ray knelt down slowly. His voice softened, though he tried to keep it steady. What is your name? The alien child looked up, tears shining in the faint light. My name is Leary, it whispered. My people are gone. Only my mother and me. If she dies, I will be alone. Please, human. Ray's chest tightened. He had come here by accident, a crash. But maybe fate had something else planned. He studied Leary again. The child's thin arms shook, its eyes wide. With fear, but also with hope, the forest groaned in the distance. A howl echoed far away. Ray's hand tightened around his blaster. He felt the danger closing in. But the greater danger was clear if the child spoke truth. There was a woman suffering in a cage, and those who imprisoned her might soon come for the child as well. He stood up, his shadow falling over the trembling figure. All right, Leary, he said. Take me to her, but if this is a trap, you won't like what happens next. Leary nodded quickly. No trap. No lies. Please follow. The child grabbed Ray's hand. Its skin cool and smooth. For a moment, Ray felt the small grip squeeze tight. Not in trickery, but in fear. The way any child clings to hope when all else is lost. Together, they moved. Through the glowing forest, strange vines curled like snakes. Eyes blinked from the darkness above. Ray kept his blaster ready, his senses sharp. Every sound seemed louder now. Every shadow stretched longer, and still, the child guided him forward. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. Ray's thoughts turned restless. Who were these invaders? What secret did the mother hold? And why, of all people, did this alien child beg him, a stranded human soldier, for help? The forest opened into a wide clearing. At its center stood broken stones, ruins of something ancient. Strange marks glowed on the walls. Leary stopped, pointing ahead with shaking hands. She is there. Beyond the stone. In the cage, Ray narrowed his eyes. The mist swirled, and deep within the ruins, he saw a faint glow, a cage of energy humming in the night. And inside, a shadow moved, the figure of someone waiting, trapped, weak, but alive. His pulse quickened. The child's words were true. There really was someone imprisoned here. And if this was real, then so was the danger. Ray tightened his grip on his blaster. His heart beat faster, for the first time since the crash. He was no longer alone, but he also knew, whatever was inside that cage, whatever secret the mother held, it could change everything, and maybe, just maybe, it could decide the fate of not only this child and his mother, but also the future of Earth itself. The ruins were silent. The cage ahead glowed faintly. A prison made of light and strange energy. Ray Carter stood still, his blaster ready, his eyes scanning every corner. Beside him, the small alien child, Leary, clung to his sleeve, trembling. The human's voice was low but firm. "Tell me everything, Leary. If I am to risk my life, I need the truth." The child looked down, its thin chest rising and falling quickly. For a moment, it seemed too frightened to speak. Then, with a shaky breath, it began. "They came from the sky, not like you, human. Not with fire and smoke. They came in silent ships of black. They looked like men, but they were not. Their bodies were metal. Their faces had no eyes, only red lights. They took our people. They burned our homes. They said we were weak and unworthy." Ray listened, his soldier's instincts sharpening. Machines, or cyborgs perhaps. An enemy that destroyed villages, captured innocents. It was the kind of story he had heard before, but never from a child's lips. Leary continued, tears slipping down silver cheeks. "My mother tried to protect us. She is not a warrior, but she has the gift, a gift of knowledge. She knows the old songs. She knows the words that can break machines. That is why they feared her. That is why they locked her in that cage. They think if she dies, the secret will die too." Ray frowned. The idea of songs that could break machines sounded like superstition. But he could not ignore the conviction in the child's voice. Perhaps it was a code, or ancient technology disguised as myth. Whatever it was, the invaders had considered it dangerous enough to silence, and your people. Ray asked quietly. Leary's small hands tightened. "They are gone. Some fled into the caves. Some were taken away. I ran, but my mother. She let herself be captured. She said, 'Run, Leary. Run and find someone who will listen.' I thought no one would ever come. But then I saw you. A human. A real human." The child's voice cracked with hope. Ray felt it strike something deep inside him. He had seen refugees before, in wars on Earth and colonies alike. He knew the sound of a broken home. But there was something different here. This child had crossed the silence of fear, searching for help. And somehow, fate had placed him in its path. Ray knelt down so his eyes met Leary's. "You said she can stop the machines? How?" The child's large eyes blinked. "I do not know all. But the old songs are not just words, they are codes. Codes hidden in melody. Passed from mothers to children. My mother is the last to remember them all. If she dies, the songs will vanish. The machines will never be stopped." Ray's thoughts whirled. It made sense in a strange way. Ancient cultures often buried secrets in chants, poems, even lullabies. Maybe these songs were a form of programming, something that could disable enemy systems, if that was true. This mother was more than a prisoner. She was the key to survival. Still, his doubts lingered. Why me? Ray asked. There must be others, stronger than a stranded human soldier. The child shook its head fiercely. No, human, you are different. I felt it when I saw you. The others here are afraid. They hide. They run. But you carry fire inside. I know you can help. You must help. The words were simple, almost childish, yet they hit Ray harder than any battle order. Because behind them was pure faith. Faith that he, a stranger, could be the savior this child needed. Ray stood again, his gaze fixed on the glowing cage in the distance. The shadow of the imprisoned mother shifted, weak but alive. He could almost hear her whispering from afar. And he could not shake the feeling that her eyes, unseen, were already on him. The forest stirred again. Branches creaked. Something moved. In the mist, Ray raised his blaster at once. Leary gasped and clung tighter. They are near. The child whispered, the guards. They never leave her for long. Ray's jaw tightened. The situation was worse than he thought. Every second here was borrowed time. But retreat was no longer an option. The child's story had carved into his mind, if what Leary said was true. Then freeing the mother was not just an act of mercy, it was an act of war against a greater threat. He glanced down at Leary. The child's eyes shone not with fear now, but with a small spark of hope. It reminded him of Earth, of family, of promises he had once made to protect the weak. He could not turn away. Not this time. All right, Ray said, his voice low and steady. I believe you, Leary, but listen to me carefully. If we are to save your mother, I need to know every detail, every guard, every patrol, every path. Leave nothing out. Leary nodded quickly, wiping tears with the back of a trembling hand. Yes, human, I will tell you all. But we must hurry, because once the red lights return, it will be too late. Ray's grip tightened on his blaster. The night felt colder, heavier. The ruins seemed to close around them. The cage in the distance pulsed with strange energy, and the shadow inside shifted again, almost as if it knew rescue was near. The human took a deep breath. This was no longer just survival. It was the beginning of something far greater. The fate of one child, one mother. Perhaps even two worlds rested now in his hands. And in the silence of the alien ruins, Captain Ray Carter made his choice. He would fight. He would not let the machines win, not while a child begged for hope, not while a mother sang the songs of survival. The night deepened as Ray and Leary moved away from the ruined stones. The cage still glowed faintly behind them, humming like a cruel heartbeat. Ray's decision was made, but now came the hardest part, reaching the mother without dying first. Leary tugged his sleeve, pointing to a narrow path hidden beneath thick roots. This way, human, we must not walk in the open. The machines see everything. Ray nodded, his soldier's instincts agreeing. In war, the straight road was often the road to death. He crouched low, following the small child as they slipped between twisting vines. The plants pulsed with pale green light, giving just enough glow to move without stumbling. The air grew warmer as they pushed forward. Strange insects buzzed, their wings sharp like blades. Once, one darted close to Ray's face. Its eyes glowed red, not natural, almost mechanical. Ray swatted it away and frowned. Even the smallest things here were twisted by the invaders. Leary looked back, whispering, "They send watchers in the air, tiny eyes. If one follows too long, the guards come." Ray tightened his grip on his blaster. This was no simple rescue. Every step was a gamble. But the child kept moving, small feet light on the glowing soil. Ray was impressed. For one so young, Leary moved like someone who had been hunted all their life. They reached a ridge where the trees thinned. Beyond it, Ray saw the first sign of the enemy. Tall figures of metal stood in silence. Their bodies shaped like men, but taller, broader, their faces flat, marked only by burning red circles where eyes should be. They did not speak, they did not breathe, they only stood. Waiting, Ray crouched and pulled Leary down beside him. "How many?" he whispered. Leary peered nervously. "5 here, but more beyond." Always groups, they listened to one mind. Ray narrowed his eyes. One mind. That meant a central control. If the mother's songs were codes, maybe they could break that link, but for now, stealth was their only weapon. He scanned the terrain. The guards stood near a broken bridge of stone, the only crossing over a black river of mist. The water below was not water at all. It bubbled, hissed, and swallowed pieces of rock with a hungry sound. Falling meant certain death. Ray's jaw tightened. The machines guarded the only way across. It was clever, efficient. He had to admire the strategy, even as he hated it. Leary tugged his arm, whispering fast. "There is another way. Not safe, but secret." The child led him down a narrow slope. Here, the ground cracked and shifted. Small tunnels opened like mouths. The smell was foul, sharp, and burning. But Ray followed without question. They crawled through the tunnels. Strange roots brushed against Ray's helmet. The air was hot, stinging his throat. Once, he heard a hiss and saw something slither away, a serpent with glassy skin and glowing bones. It vanished into the darkness, leaving only silence. Leary's small hand guided him. Without the child, Ray would have been lost. Every tunnel twisted into another, but Leary seemed to know them like the back of their small hand. "This was home, long ago," Leary whispered. "My people dug these tunnels to hide from storms. Now we hide from worse things." Ray did not answer. He was listening, not just to the child, but to the echo of his own heart. The deeper they went, the clearer it became. This was no ordinary mission. This was a war written in shadows, and somehow he had stepped right into the middle of it. At last, they crawled out onto higher ground. From here, Ray could see the fortress. It loomed in the distance. Sharp towers glowing with red lines, walls alive with moving lights. Machines patrolled the perimeter. There, heavy steps thudded through the ground like drums of war. Leary crouched beside him, pointing to the largest tower. "She is there, at the heart. The cage is deep inside." Ray studied it. He had infiltrated enemy bases before, but this was different. The machines did not act like soldiers. They moved in perfect rhythm, like one mind, one body. It would not be easy to slip past them. Still, Ray felt a spark in his chest, a challenge. This was the fight he had been born for. And maybe, just maybe, the one that would define him. He turned to Leary. "All right, but we need a plan. I cannot just walk through the front door." Hush. Leary's eyes shimmered in the faint light. "There is a drain tunnel, small, hard to pass. But it leads under the fortress. My mother told me once it was built long ago." Before the machines came, Ray gave a short nod. Risky, dangerous, but possible. Exactly the kind of path he was used to. Before they could move, a sound froze them both. A metallic shriek cut through the night. From the ridge above, one of the machines turned its head. Red light swept across the ground, scanning, searching. Ray pulled Leary close. Pressing him against the stone, he held his breath. The beam of light passed just inches away. The machine paused, as if sniffing the air without lungs. Then, slowly, it turned back, its heavy steps fading once more. Ray exhaled quietly. Too close, far too close. The danger was real, but the mission was clear. He looked at Leary. The child's small face was pale, yet the eyes burned with courage. For a moment, Ray almost smiled. Even here, in this cursed place, hope still burned. "Stay close," he whispered. "From now on, every step could be our last." The fortress loomed ahead, dark, silent, and deadly, and together. A human soldier and a fragile alien child began the most dangerous journey of their lives. Word count: approximately 809. The fortress rose like a black mountain of steel and stone. Its towers glowed with red lines that pulsed like veins. Every wall hummed with energy, and the machines that guarded it moved in silent rhythm. To Ray Carter, it looked less like a building and more like a living beast. Waiting to swallow anyone who dared to enter, he crouched with Leary at the edge of the ridge. Studying every detail, the child's small finger pointed to a shadow at the fortress base. There, human. The old drain tunnel, it is narrow, but it leads inside. Ray's sharp eyes followed the direction. Half hidden beneath broken stone and vines was a dark opening. Guards patrolled nearby, but the tunnel itself seemed forgotten. If luck was still his ally, it could be their way in. "Stay close," Ray whispered. His voice was steady. But inside his chest, his heart beat like a war drum. He had broken into enemy bases before, but never one like this. These machines were not men. Not even soldiers. They were something colder, something that never slept, never hesitated, never showed mercy. Leary nodded quickly, determination burning in those dark eyes. Together, they slipped down the slope, using shadows as their shield. Every step was careful, every breath measured. A single mistake would bring death. At last, they reached the tunnel. The opening smelled of rust and damp. Ray led the way, his blaster raised. The passage was narrow, forcing him to crawl on hands and knees. Behind him, Leary followed silently, small enough to move with ease. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing in the silence. Strange symbols were carved into the stone walls. Old, ancient, glowing faintly with a blue light. Leary touched them with reverence, whispering, "These are the marks of my ancestors. This place was built before the machines came. They never understood the old ways." Ray's soldier's mind noted the detail. Old ways meant old knowledge. Maybe even a weapon the machines could not break. It gave him a spark of hope. After what felt like hours, they crawled out into a wide chamber. Ray froze, his breath catching in his throat. Before him stretched a prison unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were alive, glowing with shifting patterns of red and black. Energy bars formed cages stacked one over another, and inside those cages were figures, dozens of alien captives, their bodies weak, their eyes hollow. Their voices were silent, but their despair filled the air. Ray's gaze locked onto the largest cage in the center. And there she was, the alien mother. She was taller than Leary. Her skin the same pale silver, but marked with lines that glowed softly. Her eyes were closed, her body weak, but even in her silence, she carried a presence that struck Ray like a blade. There was wisdom, power, and something more. A quiet strength that refused to die. Mother Leary gasped, rushing forward. But Ray grabbed the child's arm before the sound echoed too loud. "Careful," he hissed. The machines patrolled here too, in the shadows. At the far end of the chamber, two stood guard, their red eyes glowing like coals. Ray crouched low, studying the cage. The bars were not made of metal, but of shifting energy. They pulsed with strange rhythm. Not something he could cut with a blade or blast apart with his weapon. Whoever built this wanted the prisoner trapped forever. The mother stirred, her eyes opening slowly. They glowed faintly, shimmering like stars reflected in water. Her gaze moved first to her child, then to the human beside them. Her lips parted, and though her voice was weak, it carried through the chamber like a whisper wrapped in thunder. "Human." "You came." Ray stiffened. She had expected him. "How do you know me?" he asked in a low voice. The mother's eyes held secrets he could not read. "I dreamed of you, long before you fell from the sky. I saw a soldier of Earth, standing where no other dared. The one who would choose between silence and fire. Her. Words chilled him. Prophecy or something close to it. He hated prophecies. But her tone left no doubt she believed it. Leary pressed against the bars. Tears falling. Mother, I found him. He will help us. He will set you free. The mother's hand lifted weakly, pressing against the energy barrier. For a moment, the cage flickered, as if her touch alone disturbed its rhythm. Then she whispered, "It is not only I who must be freed. It is all of..." The red glow of the guard's eyes cut through the chamber. Their heavy steps echoed like drums, each one sharper, louder. Ray's blaster hummed in his grip. But he knew better than to fire first. Once the machines screamed their alarm, the whole fortress would awaken. Leary pressed against his side. Trembling but not backing away, the mother inside the cage raised her hand weakly. Her glowing eyes fixed on Ray. Her lips moved without sound, forming one word: run. But Ray shook. His head. Running was no longer an option. The machines advanced, weapons glowing. Ray fired a single shot. The beam struck one machine in the chest. Sparks burst, and it staggered, but it did not fall. The other guard raised its arm, red energy flaring. Ray pulled Leary behind a stone pillar just as the blast tore past. The wall exploded in smoke and in heat. Ray's jaw clenched. A direct fight was suicide. They needed a plan, not strength, not firepower, but cunning. He crouched close to Leary. We can't win here, not like this. The child's wide eyes burned with desperate courage. Then what do we do, human? My mother will die if we leave her. Ray glanced at the cage, at the shifting bars of energy. He thought of the patterns, the rhythm of their pulse. It reminded him of code, of locks he had seen before. Not simple metal, but logic woven into light. If the songs were real, codes hidden in melody, then the mother herself was the key. But to use her, she needed freedom first. Another blast struck the stone, shards flying. Ray pulled Leary deeper into the shadows, heart pounding. They had seconds, not minutes. He forced himself to breathe, to think like a soldier again. He had infiltrated bases before. He had escaped. Worse traps than this, but never with a child depending on him. Listen, Ray said quickly. We can't open that cage with brute force. But if we can distract the guards, I might find the control source. There must be a panel. Something. They used to adjust the cages. Leary's eyes lit with sudden hope. Yes, human, there is one. Behind the chamber, hidden in the wall, I saw them touch it when they brought food. Ray gave a sharp nod. That was the opening he needed, but the plan was risky, almost impossible. One wrong move, and not only he, but the child and the mother would be dead. Still, impossibility was something Ray had learned to live with. He leaned closer to Leary, his voice low. I need you to do something brave. Can you make a noise? A something. To draw the guards away for just a few seconds. Leary's small hands trembled. Fear flickered in those black eyes. But then the child straightened. If it saves her, I will do it. Ray almost smiled. Such courage in one so small. Good. When I move, you run to the left and shout, draw. Them just long enough, I'll find the panel and break her out. The plan was madness. But it was all they had. Ray tightened his grip on the blaster, counted the rhythm of the machine's steps. Then gave the signal. Now, Leary darted out. Voice high and clear. Here. Over here. The sound echoed through the chamber like a spark in dry grass. Both guards turned. Their red eyes locking onto the child. They moved with terrifying speed, weapons glowing. Ray sprang from cover. Dashing toward the far wall, his eyes scanned frantically until he saw it, a dark panel half hidden in the stone. Glowing faintly, he ripped the cover away and found rows of shifting symbols, alien code flashing in patterns he could barely understand. Behind him, Leary screamed as blasts struck the ground near their feet. Ray's chest tightened. He had seconds. Before the machines caught the child, he stared at the symbols, searching for rhythm. And then he saw it, the same pulsing pattern as the cage. The lock was tied to this sequence. His soldier's hands moved fast. He pressed symbols, reversed their order. The panel buzzed angrily. Sparks flying. The cage flickered once. The mother inside stirred. Her glowing eyes, wide human, "Sing," she whispered. Her voice echoing through the chamber. Ray froze, confused. "Sing what?" "The rhythm. Repeat it," she answered. The cage listens to sound. Ray's mind raced. It wasn't just code, it was melody. Without hesitating, he hummed the pattern he had seen. Low, rough, imperfect, but enough. The cage shuddered. Its light faltering, the bars weakened, gaps opening. The mother pressed her hands to the crack, her body glowing brighter. And with a sudden flare of light, the cage collapsed. Energy scattered like broken glass. She stumbled forward, free. The machines roared, a sound of grinding metal that shook the chamber. They turned from Leary and charged, weapons blazing. Ray fired, hitting one square in the chest. It fell, twitching, sparks bursting from its frame. The other rushed closer, red light burning in its arms. But before it could strike, the mother raised her hands. She opened her mouth and released a note. A sound so pure it vibrated through the stone. The machine froze, its red light flickering. It collapsed to the ground with a hollow crash. Lifeless silence fell. Heavy and strange, Ray's chest heaved. Sweat dripping, Leary ran to his mother, throwing small arms around her. "Mother, you are free." The child sobbed. The mother stroked Leary's head gently, her eyes never leaving Ray. "You risked your life." She said softly, "And now, human, your fate is bound to ours. For the machines will not forgive this. They will come, and they will not stop, but with us. You may yet stand a chance." Ray nodded slowly, his blaster still hot in his hand. The plan had worked, but only just, and already, deep within the fortress, alarms began to wail. The walls trembled with the sound of awakening death. This escape was not over. It had only begun. The alarm screamed through the fortress, a deep, metallic howl that shook the walls and filled the chamber with dread. Red lights flashed in every corner, pulsing like the heartbeat of a giant beast. Ray Carter gritted his teeth, blaster tight. In his grip, he had freed the mother, but now the entire hive of machines was awake. Leary clung to his mother, eyes wide. The mother stood weak, but proud. Her silver skin glowing faintly in the red light. She placed a trembling hand on Ray's arm. "They are coming," she whispered. "Not just guards. The swarm," as if her words had summoned them. The ground began to tremble from the dark halls beyond. The sound of metal feet grew louder. Dozens, maybe hundreds, moving in unison. The first wave appeared, tall iron figures with glowing red eyes. They marched like soldiers, but there was no voice, no command. They were one mind, one will. And they had only one purpose: destroy the intruders. Ray raised his blaster and fired. Bolts of light struck the nearest machines, sparks bursting as two collapsed. But more surged forward, their weapons glowing. Energy beams ripped across the chamber, searing the stone. Ray rolled behind a broken pillar, returning fire, in short. Bursts. His training screamed at him. Never waste shots, never stop moving. But there were too many. "Mother." Leary cried, pulling at her arm. The mother closed her eyes, her voice soft. "Stay behind me, child." She raised both hands, and a strange hum filled the air. Her voice rose into a low, haunting song. The melody rippled through the chamber. Like invisible waves, the machines staggered, their red eyes flickering. Some froze in place. their limbs jerking like puppets with cut strings. Others collapsed entirely, their metal bodies crashing to the ground. Ray's eyes widened. So the songs were real, a weapon, not myth. But the mother's body shook with every note. She was weak, drained by the cage. She could not hold this power for long. Ray fired again, covering her. Keep singing. He shouted, "I'll handle the ones who don't listen." The machines adapted quickly. Some blocked the song's effect, moving faster, angrier. One leaped toward Ray. Claws sharp, he ducked, swung the butt of his blaster like a hammer. The impact cracked its head, sparks flying. Ray shoved it aside and shot another in the chest. The battle was chaos, blinding flashes of red and blue light. The mother's voice rising like thunder. The machines screaming in static rage. Leary huddled behind the broken pillar, eyes shining with both terror and hope. For every machine that fell, 2 more came. Ray's arms ached, his chest burned, but he kept fighting, kept moving. At one point, a machine grabbed him by the throat, lifting him into the air. Its red eyes burned inches from his face. Ray choked, struggling. Then a small cry rang out. Human. Leary hurled a sharp piece of stone at the machine's head. It struck with a crack. Just enough to break its focus. Ray jammed his blaster under its chin and fired. The machine's head exploded in sparks, dropping him to the floor. Ray coughed, grabbing Leary's shoulder. "Good throw, kid. Now stay close." The mother's song shifted. Higher, sharper. It pierced the air like blades. The machine stumbled again, but she collapsed to one knee, her body shaking violently. Ray rushed to her side, firing at the advancing horde. "You can't keep this up," he shouted. She looked at him, sweat glistening on her silver skin. "I must. If I stop, they will overrun us." Ray's mind raced. She was right, but she was dying. And if she fell, everything would end here. His eyes scanned the chamber, desperate. And then he saw it, a massive energy core pulsing on the far wall. It powered the cages, maybe even the entire fortress. If he destroyed it, it might bring the whole place down. He grabbed the mother's arm, pulling her up. "Listen to me. You keep them back. I'll take out that core. It's the only way." Her eyes widened. "You will not survive the blast." Ray smirked grimly. "I've been surviving things I shouldn't for years. Trust me." Before she could answer, he sprinted toward the core, blaster blazing. The machines saw him, hundreds of red eyes turning at once. They surged forward, a tidal wave of metal and death. But Ray did not stop. Every shot he fired was aimed precise, cutting a path through the storm. A claw slashed his arm. Blood spilled, but he shoved the machine aside and kept running. The mother's song rose again, stronger despite her weakness. Her voice cracked the air itself, freezing dozens of machines in place. Leary screamed encouragement, his small hands pounding the stone. "Go, human, go." Ray reached the core, its glow blinding. He aimed his blaster at the center and fired. The beam struck, but the core only pulsed brighter. It needed more. Without hesitation, Ray tore a grenade from his belt. The last one he had, he armed. It pressed it against the core and whispered under his breath. For Earth, he turned and ran, dragging Leary and the mother toward the nearest exit tunnel. Behind them, the core cracked with a rising scream. Light burst across the chamber. The explosion ripped through the fortress like fire through dry grass. Machines collapsed, their red eyes flickering out. Walls shook, towers fell. The fortress itself groaned like a dying beast. Ray stumbled through the tunnel, the mother leaning against him. Leary clung to his back. Behind them, the fortress crumbled in fire and smoke. The ground shook until the night swallowed the sound. They emerged into the cold air, gasping. The fortress was gone. A ruin of flame and twisted metal. Ray collapsed to one knee, exhausted, his body bleeding. But he was alive. They were all alive. The mother placed her hand on his shoulder. Her voice was soft but filled with awe. You fought as one of us. But more. You fought as more than human. You are family now. Ray looked at her, then at Leary's tearful but smiling face. For the first time since his crash, he felt the weight of purpose. The battle was won, but the war had only just begun. The night was quiet again. The fortress lay in ruins behind them. Flames rising into the alien sky. The red glow of the machines was gone, replaced by smoke and silence. Ray Carter sat on a broken stone, his body aching, blood drying on his arm. Beside him, Leary leaned against his shoulder, exhausted but alive. The mother stood nearby, her silver skin shimmering faintly in the firelight, her eyes filled with both pain and strength. For a long time, none of them spoke, only the crackle of burning towers filled the air. Ray stared at the ruins, breathing heavily. He had seen battles before, but never like this. This was no victory, it was survival, and deep in his gut, he knew the war was far from over. At last, the mother broke the silence. Her voice was low, soft but carried weight. You saved us, human. But you must understand, this was not the end. It was only the beginning. Ray turned his head slowly, his eyes sharp. What do you mean? We destroyed their base. We killed their guards. The mother shook her head, her glowing eyes filled with sorrow. That fortress was only one claw of the beast. The machines are countless. They are not bound to one world. They spread like a sickness across the stars and Earth. Your Earth is already within their sight. Ray's chest tightened. He thought of home, of blue skies, cities full of life, of children running freely without fear. He imagined those same skies filled with silent black ships, the same red lights burning. Across his own world, the thought made his fists clench. Leary looked up at him, small hands gripping his sleeve. Human, they will come. They always come. They will not stop until everything is theirs. Ray exhaled slowly. Every instinct in him screamed denial. He wanted to believe Earth was safe, that his people were too strong, too clever to fall. But he had seen the machines fight. He had seen their endless numbers, their cold unity, and he knew, if they reached Earth, the war would be unlike anything humanity had faced before. The mother stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. You have a choice, Ray Carter. You can leave us now, search for your people, try to return to your home, or you can stand with us, learn our ways, learn the old songs. And together we may forge a weapon strong enough to break the machines once and for all. Ray stared into her glowing eyes. He saw no lies there, only truth and desperation, but also hope. Hope that he had not felt since before his crash. He looked at Leary, the child who had begged him in the forest, the child who had trusted him without question, the child who now clung to him like family. He thought of the battles ahead, of the pain, the loss, but also of the chance to save not only this world, but his own. Slowly, Ray stood. Ignoring the ache in his body, he met the mother's gaze with steady eyes. If what you say is true, then running won't save anyone. Earth is their next target, then my fight is already with you. I'll stand, but you'll have to teach me everything. The mother bowed her head, a gesture of respect. Then you are no longer only human. You are one of us now. Together, we will sing the songs of freedom. Together, we will fight. Leary's face lit with a smile through the tears. I knew it. I knew you would not leave us. Ray allowed himself a small smile, but deep inside, his mind was already racing. This was no small mission, no simple rescue. This was a war for survival, and the enemy was vast, relentless, merciless. He glanced once more at the burning fortress. Its towers collapsed into fire and smoke. He knew others like it still stood on other worlds, and behind them all was something greater. A mind that controlled them, a core that gave them unity. To win, he would have to face it. The mother seemed to read his thoughts. Her voice was firm now, no longer weak. The machines have a heart, a center of control, far away, hidden deep. In the stars, if we can strike there, we can end them, but it will take time, and allies, and courage, beyond measure. Ray tightened his grip on his blaster. I've got time, I've got courage. And now, I've got allies. So tell me where to start. The flames behind them roared higher. The sky above was filled with ash and starlight. In that moment, Ray Carter was no longer a stranded soldier. He was a warrior of two worlds. Bound by a promise to a child, a mother, and to his own people. The journey ahead would be long. The battles would be endless. But the fire in his chest burned brighter than fear, for he knew this truth. Humanity was stubborn, defiant, unyielding, and when the machines came for Earth, they would not find a world ready to kneel. They would find a world ready to fight. Ray looked at Leary and the mother, his voice steady, filled with iron. Let's begin, and with that, under the alien stars, a new alliance was born. An alliance that could change the fate of the galaxy forever.